Michael has been learning for almost 70 years. Caine carved out a career that few actors could even think of. From modest South London starts to the bright lights of Hollywood, he was the characteristic voice, face, and manner behind some of the biggest, unforgettable movies the audiences enjoyed. His confident surety, his quick wit, and his art of bringing each character to life. Right. He earned Academy Awards, won recognition around the world, and became one of some of Britain's greatest acting icons. But if you asked Michael Caine what mattered most when the cameras ceased, never fame was his answer while rolling, wealth, or even his wonderful career that forever changed his life. At rear, each victory was a deeply personal tale that most people don't actually got it. In the subsequent years, many headlines about him, flicks and his Hollywood connections, tales, and the amazing longevity of profession. But his close acquaintances finest comprehended that greatest chapter of his life was written far off from film shoots. It was written without sound. Moments at home with folks who stood by him long ago. Applause began, and long after it stopped away, love came in Michael Caine's more than once in a lifetime. Certain relationships taught him harsh lessons. Other told him that true kindness was uncommon in an industry defined by ambition and change always. There was friendships that went on for decades, family ties that formed him into the man he became, and memories that never left him, however many years went by. Each of those people left a lifelong scar on his heart. They helped each other convert a young man born to misfortune into an actor adored around the world. As Michael reached his 90s and quietly walked away from acting, his own reflections were more thoughtful than ever. Rather than talking about honors or started to talk of famous performances, more openly about thankfulness, about loyalty, and the individuals who gave his life meaning. Looking back over more than 90 years, he recognized that success can never be gauged by box office numbers or gold statues. It was assessed by the people who stayed when everyone thing was altered. Today we remember of the 5 people that molded Michael Caine's heart more than anyone else's. Some were only with him for a season. Others stayed at his side all his life. Their stories are full with optimism, heartache, laughter, sacrifice, and loyalty unshakable. And by the time you'll get the last name, you'll know why. Finally, 93-year-old Michael Caine stated who he loved most and why. One friendship became the basis of what he had accomplished. Michael Caine has always thought that genuine respect in Hollywood was locked in long before accolades and headlines. Almost nobody more than Shaw had indicated such belief. Connery, the world knew Connery, though Michael watched as the original James Bond. Far deeper than that. A man he saw which had come from modest beginnings, would not be changed by fame, and stood himself with calm confidence during a distinguished career. The 2 actors were astonishingly identical journeys. Both were brought up in working class families in the UK. Both of them knew hardship from an early age, and both worked relentlessly for openings that never came easy. Those common experiences forge an instant link whenever they were in one another's company. They never have to clarify what they were up to. because each already knew the stories each other. In the course of years they met at film premieres, award ceremonies, industry events, ceremonies across the world. Their discussions were seldom about box office success or star. Instead, they discussed about aged family, the movie shifts, sector, and the importance of remaining authentic to themselves. Michael glanced at the fact that Sean always seems uninterested, in search of attention. He let the work speak for itself, a quality Michael had a great respect. What I liked most Sean's unwavering was Michael independence. Even at the peak of his renown, he picked assignments on his own terms and never seemed like a people pleaser. Hollywood for Hollywood's sake. Popularity. Michael often thought that sort of integrity was becoming increasingly unusual. Watching Sean stay loyal to his values made him remember that a brilliant career was worth nothing if it cost you the loss of your identity. When Sean died, pay tribute with Michael 2020. Real love. He described Sean as not simply an amazing actor but as a great man whose kindness, force, and the professionalism had inspired generations. It was obvious Michael's admiration stretched far beyond the display. He had lost a man he valued on a personal and professional level. Looking back throughout the decades, Michael found out that Hollywood had added well-known faces, but very few have made such a lasting mark. Sean Connery gained Michael Caine's respect, not because he was a myth, but because he stayed true during every phase of life. That silence, genuineness, is one of the attributes, the most important thing for Michael in the people he chose to stay around. In the early 70s, Michael Caine was not battling for recognition. He had turned into an international star whose name by itself to gather crowds around the world. Film sets were now crowded with renowned actors, prestigious directors, and incessant media attention. But nonetheless, in the midst of Hollywood's glittery world, he found out that real friendships were few and far apart. One of the people who left a permanent mark. He was greatly impressed by Natalie Wood. They collaborated on Times, the last of the Sheila Times, a smart mystery movie that brought together an incredible cast. And between the scene changes, Michael arrived to know a woman that is very different from the glamorous image the public was used to. Natalie was friendly and intelligent, with a subtle sense of humor that immediately put folks at their ease. She is trained on data up to October 2023. Treated everyone on set with kindness, fellow stars, or a crew member. Michael liked the polite manner she was, despite spending the majority of her life in front of camera. As the shooting went on, the two built a comfortable friendship based on mutual respect. What they had in common: talks about the stress of fame, the difficulty of keeping a private life, and the odd reality of living under the relentless glare of publicity. Michael knew the pressures well, although he realized that Natalie had an emotional weight not many people really acknowledged. Behind her famed smile, there was someone who wished for the ordinary, away from relentless Hollywood spotlight. How Natalie Wood died. 1981. It was a shock when the news came. The whole realm of entertainment. Michael was quite sad, not only because Hollywood lost one of its brightest stars, but it was because he had lost someone he really admired. Later on, interviewed, he recalled her with love and to will to speak of her professionalism and charity rather than speculation without end, which her death enveloped. For Mike, Natalie was a reminder that fame afforded no protection from heartbreak or personal difficulties. Careers might make individuals famous, but kindness was kindness what made them stand out. But though friendship was simply one chapter in his extraordinary life, it was a chapter he valued. Yet as that friendship had meant so much, there was another connection that mutual lasted for decades, based on film sets, but on steadfast loyalty. It was a friendship that could coexist with Michael via triumph, disappointment, laughter and loss, demonstrating that some relationships develop stronger with each year. Very few friendships in the entertainment lasted as long as naturally as that between Michael, Roger Moore and Caine. Long before they had world-famous celebrities, they knew the path each had trod. They were both brought up in hard times. Great Britain. Both fought hard for possibilities that felt beyond reach. And each one eventually found themselves representing a generation British stars who ruled Hollywood without and forget whence they came forever. When they met, there was no competition, no jealousy, no need to impress each other. Friends would laugh that the two could sit and giggle for hours over basic stories, and to fully disregarding the glitzy world around them. Michael liked Roger's easy charisma and a good sense of humor. Roger respected Michael's honesty in return, discipline, and an outstanding work ethic. They had different personalities, but the disparities were accentuated their friendship. As the years went by, they kept in regular communication, though busy shooting schedules that took them away around the globe. They went to charity events together, supported each other's initiatives, and shared many private supper out with the photographers. Michael, ain't he ever changed, Roger? Even when you become one of the greatest. Celebrity gave familiar faces to cinema. Made him famous, but never the man his friends knew was gone. One tale was a beautiful mirror of their relation. In an interview, Michael laughed as he remembered that while they were together, discourse rarely focused on movies or prizes. Instead, they spoke about family, old friends, football, and the regular moments that held them ground. Those little talks become even more precious to both men. Grew up and watched many of their die with their contemporaries. When Roger Michael's homage Moore died in 2017. Straight from the heart. Instead than talking about nothing but Roger's spectacular career, he told of losing a good friend whose kindness had not ever been faded. He recalled the laughs, the generosity, and steadfast loyalty that had marked the friendship of theirs for years. It was obvious that Michael was grieving far more than an actor would. He was bidding farewell to someone who had took a remarkable adventure through life. Michael looked back and found that their friendships would never be substituted. Hollywood had him come to plethora of celebs, but just a handful blossomed into real lifelong buddies. Roger Moore was one of those rare humans, and even that remarkable Friendship could not go beyond the woman who initially taught Michael courage, resilience, and unconditional love to anyone in the world knew his name. Well before Michael Caine walked on a movie set or accepted an Academy Award, there was one female he made every portion of the man in silence he'd turned into. His was that woman. Mother, Ellen Caine Francis. She never did wanted attention, never thought that one day her son would be one of Britain's greatest actors, and never quantified renowned success. Her concern was just to assure her family got through some of the toughest years imaginable. Michael growing up in South London during a period when poverty and insecurity. His dad worked long hours at the fish market porter, and his mother did anything she could to help support his family. Then there was the Second World War. Air raid, sirens and bomb bunkers, and rationing, and continuous anxiety was part of the daily life. Those recollections for a small boy never went away. But when looked back on those hard years, he hardly thought of dread. Rather, he remembered his mother's resolve. No matter how bad things became, Ellen wouldn't allow her kids lose hope. She urged Michael to believe that honesty and hard effort meant more than of money or position. Even if theirs had very little money, but she discovered methods to make her sons feel cherished, protected. Michael carried those lessons long when childhood was over. As his performance career started slowly to develop, there were times when rejection made him doubt whether he should go on. Success was hard to find, roles were distant, and many young actors quit. Michael often recalled hearing his mother voice asking him to hold going, to never let temporary failure to decide his future. The quiet encouragement was one of the nicest sources of strength he had during his career. Even after they becomes an international star, he never forgot where he came from. He proudly boasted of his working class, giving honor to his roots, often his parents, especially his mother, for holding him grounded. Many celebrities attempted, and few succeeded, to get distanced from humbleness. Starts, and Michael took to he's thought they gave him perspective, thankfulness, and an understanding of everyday individuals who had never left him. Years passed, his accolades filled shelves, and audiences across the globe recognized his distinguished career. Still, whenever he was thinking of the values which they nearly always guided his life, to his mom, she had taught him humility, resilience before success, kindness before acknowledgement, and fame. But there was one person who impact finally reached even deeper. She became the love of not only his life, but also the reason that he came to enduring peace after years of pursuit. Success. Her coming transformed everything, showing that sometimes the best love tale starts when you least anticipate it. Michael Caine often joked that the biggest choice of his life started with a TV commercial. It sounded almost too good to be right. But he was never bored of relaying the story because, in his opinion, that was a game changer. One night he was watching the early 70s television when a Maxwell House coffee commercial was released. Among the persons on the screen was a beautiful young lady whose beauty at once struck him with attention. Her name was Shakira Caine. Michael said to a friend he had to face her. His friend laughed, convinced it was impossible. Shakira was living in another nation, and it was no apparent means to organize an introduction, but Michael will not let possibility to disappear. By contacts in common and plenty persistence, he finally got to meet her. Years on, he'd smile every time he thought of the moment, saying he knew from the start that she was another than anyone he'd ever known. Their first chats were easy. Shakira was clever, calm, and quite underwhelmed by Hollywood glory. She looked at Michael as a man instead of a movie star, and that was precisely what he had been seeking, without knowing it, within an industry. Because the look was often more important. More than character, she respected honesty, loyalty, and family first. Otherwise, they married in 1973, starting a partnership that would continue longer than more than half a century. They are together, welcomed daughter, Natasha, and established a life that was remarkable. Steady despite Michael's extra career. He kept making movies, nevertheless. Shakira built a home all over the world, where he could escape the strains of behind the Hollywood. Michael used to say often that the highlight of his day was, no matter where he was going, home to his family, where his work had led him. Unlike many celebrity couples, they seldom chased publicity. They enjoyed quiet dinners, family reunions, and time away from cameras. Michael would often tell secret of their one of the marriage was basic respect. They trusted one another, listened to one another, other entirely, and never let fame become more significant than their relationship. He also confessed that they hated being apart and always attempted to travel together while you can. This commitment kept them close during the decades when many Hollywood marriages were softly collapsed. As Michael grew up older, his appreciation for Shakira just got tougher. Awards, premieres, and standing ovations were great recollections, but they could never compete to the comfort of having someone will be waiting for him when the lights were left. In later life, in interviews, years, he spoke in an outstanding compassion to his wife and says often she had given him the happiest years of his life. His life. There was no drama, confession, no startling revelation, but only the serene confidence of a guy who knew what counted. Looking at 93 years old and back with Michael Caine, memorable accomplishments, came to a straightforward conclusion at last. The biggest role he has ever played was not on a cinema screen, it was being a loyal husband of the woman who was at his side through each chapter of his life. Shakira was never only the love of his life. She was his home, his peace, and the reason why success always had meaning. After all he experienced, that was the truth he wanted the world to know. Mike Caine's tale is a reminder that the best love stories are not always the loudest. They are built in silence. During 10,000 days of common life, shared sacrifices, unflinching trust, and the decision to support someone year on year. The universe praised his wonderful movies and performances, the unforgettable moments. The thing he valued most took place far from red carpets and flashing cameras. They, encircled by the happened in the household. Those who gave his life meaning. Every last person on this list influenced Michael in a different manner. Patricia Haynes thought. A long time before stardom came. Natalie Wood reminded him that kindness was even break into Hollywood. Roger Moore proven that real friendship could last a lifetime. His mother, Ellen Francis. The strength and ideals Caine imparted to him. That took him through every problem. But it was Shakira Caine who was the steady presence that finished his voyage, handing the love he had stability and peace. Looked for his entire life. Maybe that which Michael Caine reflects is why resonate with so many people nowadays. He did not measure his life by its end. Academy Awards, blockbuster movies, or international recognition. He measured it with those that stayed by his side while the applause subsided. Those were the things that partnerships that were his own heritage. Thanks for joining us as we've Michael looked over at the 5 persons Caine loved the most. If this story clicked your heart, tell us in the comments. Which relationship has meant the most to you? And why? And if you love timelessness, stories of the legends who made Hollywood, don't forget to subscribe and join us for the next unforgettable voyage into the life behind the stars.